Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the NLC Division 2. And what a way to start off here on this lovely Thursday with Guap Gaming taking the win over our reigning champions natives. But we are about to move on to our next game. And to say this is an interesting matchup would be an understatement. Raid Gaming go up against Munster Rugby Gaming, a team which you mentioned before we started the show. Pretty much just had their roster, disassembled it, and it, all fell apart, and then had to reassemble it again. But I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like what they've done with their new roster here.
Yeah, so have I, but Munster recently haven't really been able to pull through with the results. I think they're on like a 5 or a 6 game loss streak, which when you compare that to what this roster looked like when it was first kind of put back together, I think they went on about 3 win streak, like just straight out of the gate, very little experience together, and it looked really, really strong. But since then, they've definitely been falling and looking for some kind of identity for themselves, which has definitely seemed like it's been plaguing them throughout the weeks. And Rate as well, technically, on a brief 2-game loss streak, hoping to break the duck here into Munster. But, losing to go up seems like the thing for all the top 3 teams. So, that's neither here nor there. And their previous loss before that, it's expected now at this point, apparently. And their previous loss before that was against natives. But they were picking up wins elsewhere. I mean, hell, technically, their game against Lightside was turbulent, shaky at best. That win was a very emphatic one, and it took a very, very long time. But talking about the draft in front of us, Casio, very expected against Errol, of course. Wukong, Belveth, Corky, Yumi, Seraphine, all the Enchana nonsense taken off the board. And with that, Munster now have gone for this Kalista first pick, and it's going to be immediately responded with by this Ashe to try and shut down the Kalista 1-1. Of course, Ashe's all attacks slow, and Kalista's auto attacks and her dashes are scaled off of a boot tier and her movement speed. So she's being slowed. She technically attacks slower, literally. So good 1-1 direct counter. And, well, I mean, Trundle was just going to, try and put Kalista in the dirt as well with the pillar.
Oh, wow.
So see the Kalista, and they're just like, okay, they're just daring them. Go Volibear and Renata. See if we don't just go with this. They're just saying, with the Trundle, if you go Volibear, we're going to have a positive matchup in the jungle. And if you end up taking your support here, we'll just get counter on R3. So I think Munster, the smart thing to do is still to go jungle, but try and hold on to that support matchup for as long as possible, unless you really want the Renata matchup here.
They look to be going for the Diana. Let's just wait as it does get locked in. To me, that is very interesting. Shakail is a very carry-oriented jungler. In that sense, he's definitely one who is very prominent on the carries, obviously. A lot of junglers in these days can pretty much play everything, but this is something why he has been excelling a lot. Back when he played in the Benelux scene as well and almost made it to the European Masters play-ins. Habu, though, let's see what he ends up locking in here. You're mentioning the Renata. Let's see if they go through with that part at the very least. So it is a very strong 2v2 down in the bot, and they would have that.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were just going to do this in the same rotation, because obviously anytime you see the Diana, the Yasuo just kind of is almost synonymous with it these days, and does give Raid the opportunity, and more specifically Errol the opportunity to go for a counter pick, and there are plenty of things you can pick into Yasuo that can kind of match him early on. Tryndamere being hovered, and unironically is actually a pretty bad matchup for Yasuo to play, so I wouldn't actually even mind seeing Errol play something like this. Whether or not it actually gets locked in is obviously the next question, because hovers, you can't always talk about him for a very long time. It's just going to be Errol's Azir, which he has been on an absolute tear with, even if Rate haven't necessarily been pulling through with the results. He on the Azir has looked mighty threatening.
I think it is a very exciting mid lane matchup, not only in the champions but also in the 2 Danish mids. Erol, obviously someone who popped up a lot last split for Flyng Esport Elite, and Habu, an unsung Danish hero, I would say. Very underrated in the Danish scene for many years. He was at many lands able to carry teams that weren't that good, all the way up to like top 3, top 4 finishes with a team that in no way, shape or form should be able to do that. And now he's finally getting to some bigger games with some better teams around, and I'm very happy to see how he has performed individually so far throughout the split. But back into the bans, as they have been rolling towards us, it is the ban of Nautilus being the priority from the side of Raid Gaming and the Renata, so trimming that support pool, while at the moment Jungle, or the Olaf at the very least, seems to be the focus here from the side of Munster Rugby Gaming.
Yeah, so I wonder if Munster are going to take away another curl champion like Set or something along those lines. Seems like they just want to take the Ornn off the table as an option of engage, because Raid definitely do need a bit of a go button. They only really have the Ashe ult to work off of, Azir getting a little bit aggressive, things like that. Limited agency options, so Raid just taking, or Munster taking that Ornn off the table to try and remove that option away from the top side of the map. But I expect Curl will still have something in his back pocket. And I want to see Ray hold on to support counter pick until R5. When you have a Callista lane, you typically want to try and get a positive support matchup. When you already have the one-to-one sort of counter in ADs, maybe you feel like, however, you don't necessarily need it. My only problem is, what if Fastleg just runs Braum here? Because Callista Braum, it's actually a pretty strong duo. You get a knock up as well to use off of Yasuo ultimate, and just one-to-one with Alistar in slot. It just makes sense. Alistar goes in, you jump on the person that he's gone on, or if he's gone on you, you just kind of put your shield up, soak up all the damage, whether it's protecting your AD carry or not, and you just get the concussive blow stacked up very quickly, and then it kind of just helps Callista get those Ren stacks going. GP is also taken away, which is another pick, which I would have liked to have seen Rate go here on R4, because it can shut down the Callista quite well once she hit level 6. The massive slow field from the Cannon Barrage can really, really hamper her team fighting ability, but it's just going to be a Mumu as the answer here. So just looking for sort of in off the Callista ult into massive Mumu, and then maybe looking for wombo combos from the Yasuo Diana combo seems to be what they're looking for. And now Ray has the opportunity to counterpick this Gangplank lane.
Yeah, I definitely see the wombo combo. You can throw a GP ult on top of that as well, just a bit more AoE damage on every member. So it definitely seems to be that dream that they have of potentially turning a team fight, even regardless of how far they could potentially fall behind. But the Swain locked in the end for Curl. That is not something I normally see this guy on. A very carry-on player. The best 1v1 at the moment in Denmark, winning Red Bull Solo Q Denmark recently.
Yeah, I mean, what would actually be really cool is if they swapped Azir up to top, because that's a pretty miserable matchup for Gangplank, and Swain can manageably lane into Yasuo, whereas on the opposite side, I guess, like, in the mid lane, the Azir matchup for Yasuo kind of stinks. You get outpushed, there's a little bit of all-in threat once you hit level 6, but outside of that, the problem is if you go in and you use your last breath, you just get shoved back underneath the tower normally, because Azir is going to be closer to his tower. So it's kind of a neutralizing matchup at worst, where you both just get to scale, whereas Swain can kind of do the same thing in the mid lane, not really die to an all-in level 6, and Azir on the top side can absolutely, like, monster on Gangplank. So I'm wondering whether or not we'll get a player swap, but I doubt that we will. But away from that, I think really strong team fighting tools, right? They're more or less waiting for Munster to come into them, and I think they've drafted for that, with that Swain on R5 in particular. Whilst it's definitely something that we don't get to see too frequently, I think once we start to see the IM start to roll in for Swain, we've already seen what it can do in the map currently when it gets run in the mid lane. It's going to effectively be the exact same thing from the top side of the map.
And with that, that is the draft complete. So we are obviously about to move into the game. Munster Rugby Gaming will pick up a huge, crucial win to keep themselves, first of all, out of the relegation. But just the same position Guapo in before they beat Natives. They could also still make that run into playoffs if things go right for them. And getting this win not only gives you that win towards playoffs, but also adds a loss to one of the playoffs teams that aren't in the top 3 at the moment, more towards the bottom 3. So, it's a team that might potentially, if they go on a bad run of form, could be pushed out if you continue to take games. So a massive game here for playoff changes. But step number 1 for the side of Munster Rugby Gaming, make sure you don't go into that relegation place.
Yeah, Munster need to try and keep pace with, at the very least, Guap, right? You want to stay with a 2-game buffer at best against Lucent, or I suppose 1. I'm not sure what their head-to-head is. Let me take a look. So they're actually losing. They've lost to Lucent, so they really do want to keep at the very least a 2-game buffer, because if they end up losing a game and then Lucent catch up with that one win in hand they have, all of a sudden they're on equal terms, and then come that Munster-Lucent matchup, Munster have to win it. Otherwise, it's just relegation just by default if Lucent end up matching them in score by the end of the split. So very important win for Munster to take here in that regard. And for 8, honestly, I think it's more about the ramifications of potentially Rising Dawn or Domino slipping into that 3rd spot, or like tying with them for that 3rd spot. Of course, when you're talking about the playoffs and how that's situated as well, 3rd place gets to pick their opponent, and then the other 2 teams end up in the bottom part of the bracket, which there is no inherent disadvantage to that. You just get put in the other bracket part. Yeah. So obviously you have top 2 winners bracket. You win that best of, you immediately go to finals, whereas the rest of the 4 teams have to obviously progress through the lower bracket, but 3rd place gets the privilege of picking their opponent. So Rate definitely want to try and keep that privilege, as I expect they don't necessarily want to end up with a tougher opponent than they necessarily have to.
And it's also the fact that it's a very important time for Raid to really get back into the, the thick of things, right? Going on a 2-game loss streak at this point in the split can hurt you a lot when the playoffs are this close because yes, they are 8-5 now, but let's just say they lose this game, suddenly they are 8-6, and if Domino then get a win up against, I think it is Lucent or London they play against today. It is one of the bottom teams. Same goes to Rising Dawn. Yes, Rising Dawn. They're playing against London United. Domino are playing against Lucent. So 2 games that they should, theoretically speaking, win. And then imagine if Unique managed to take down Lungfist Lights, and as well, suddenly the playoffs will be completely close with pretty much every team from 2nd to 6th within 1 to 2 games of each other.
Yeah, and that would really be classic Division 2.
It would.
I'm used to, right? Like, you get to the final day and, you're in 3rd place, but then you lose, and all of a sudden you don't even make playoffs. Like, it would be very, very normal, to be honest with you. I mean, as you rightfully say, Rate are only sitting now 2 wins above Guap, who are in 7th by themselves. So it's not entirely out of the question for, some kind of shenanigans like that to occur. But again, it's about the ramifications of this game, I think, more for the rest of the table. I was struggling for the word for some reason, as opposed to what it means directly for the teams right now. More for Rate in that regard, as both lanes going to meet, and Fast Egg is probably going to feel the worst end of that trade for now. As curiously, he actually has Guardian instead of Aftershock, or Glacial even. So I'm wondering if that's an adaptation on this lane matchup is not particularly the best for Kalista, like 1-to-1 with the Ashe, and you just want to kind of get a little bit of extra sort of shield power on some of those trades. That's like being super optimistic. I think it's probably a wrong rune choice.
I mean, it could be. And talking about rune choices, I kind of want to highlight the fact that Velocity has gone for, the slow as well with the Glacial Augment, allowing him to be that much more of a menace to Revelia, so we'll have a hard time dashing out after his WQ combo because there's suddenly a big icy path that also slows you down and denies these jumps, but it also makes him more squishy. That's one thing we have to remember. He doesn't get that Aftershock buff, which, neither does Fastleg now with his rune choice as well. So when both of these supports jump in, they will actually be pretty squishy, all things considered.
Yeah, no, I think Velocity is going to have to wait until he hits level 6 at best to really have some of those stats come in and online. The matchup is going to be one I'm interested to track, but I think we're going to have to pay attention to the bottom side gank here that Julbu is going to find.
Yeah, Pillar is available, then remember the headbutt polarized, but instead they go on to Fast Leg, then he will simply go down, nothing he can do. He, surrenders himself gracefully over to Julbu.
Yeah, good job. I think he starts the pillar,
Yeah, the pillar still comes through. The slowest massive, the auto attacks and flash forward, but followed. And that's a kill, and both sums out of Rubulus.
Yeah, Rubulus even used the cleanse at the very end there. Skewer almost goes down, but we'll just about heal back up with the citrus fruit. And I guess Ruvelius just not respecting the fact that Julbu didn't actually have to use the pillar on the way out there, or on the way to that gank, and just kind of falls prey. And he picked up both of those kills. That's going to really, really feel bad for that Calista lane, because you always want to get that one going, of course, in that bottom side of the map.
Some issues with PC from Julbu, who, by the way, just 3 minutes in, had a very successful gank bot lane and got 2 kills. I don't know if PC was overheating from how hot his gameplay was. Who knows, man.
I mean, it is pretty warm in Europe at the moment, to be fair.
Not in Denmark, I will say. I mean, it's 17 degrees here in Denmark. It's perfect summer weather. I love this. Okay. It's very nice. Coming to Berlin this Tuesday was like 28 degrees and I was sweating, man. It was hot.
See, I don't even quite find 28 like hot. Like, I'd say that's warm, like warm summer weather.
Yeah, move to Denmark, man. Then it's a lot colder and it's very nice. It's like a comfortable temperature.
Comfortable temperature,
Yeah,
I'll have to think about it.
Exactly.
I do like my calm, not too cold, like permanently, but not too hot weather. But as a Brit, I only get sweltering humidity or
grey and rain
and grey and rain. Yeah, like there's no middle.
There's no in between. There is no comfortable in Britain at the moment. And then a producer sends a picture of where he is, 34 degrees sunny. It's 7 p.m. It's 19th century European summertime. I'm sorry for you, dear producer. Regardless,
it doesn't even get better at night.
It doesn't get better. Oh my.
Especially because when you think about it, right?
Mhm.
our producer is from Italy, which is obviously near the
Oh, yeah.
Mediterranean. So, like, not only is it 34 degrees, but it's 34 degrees and actually humid too, because
Oh
that's
my
how Mediterranean
God.
typically is.
That's the reason I'm never moving down south, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a lot. It's a lot. But
yeah.
focusing back on the game outside of Europe's crazy summer weather at the moment. Rate off to a hot start at the very least with that bottom side gank, and they can definitely look to repeat it, to be honest with you. And it looks like Julbu kind of agrees. I can't recall what his original clear was. I think it was 3 camps into bot, but he's cleared his top side camps, or ignoring the Krugs. He's moved back down towards the bottom side, and he can look towards that dragon or another bot gank if either opportunity opens up for him.
I think maybe he went red buff and then into blue buff, and then some cancel to get level 3, so he had the extra slow as well. But the Drake has spawned, and obviously when you have 2 kills early on your jungler, it seems like a reasonable choice to go for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it definitely is. And Trundle, typically, you want to try and do one or two things, like constantly kind of skirmish and abuse the fact that, well, you're Trundle and you normally stat check champions super early on, or, of course, get these objectives going, because, of course, Trundle not necessarily known for his superb team fighting in the later stages, which means that you want to try and get the best use out of your kit as soon as you possibly can.
To take just a catch up on the rest of the map, mid lane has been quiet, mainly CSing, sitting at a 4 CS lead at the moment to Harpo, so it is there, but it is not a big difference at the moment. Both have hit level 6 in the top lane. Curl at the moment trying to push out Skiwa, having traded a lot. He has managed to build himself up a little CS lead of about, what, 8-9 CS, and is pushing him in.
Yeah, doing pretty good for himself as things stand. Definitely, again, a lane that you normally see the Azir up in CS. So, Harbo managing that one pretty damn well, if you ask me. But this is where things start to get a little bit tricky. Now that level 6 is in, sometimes that all-in threat can be a little bit scary. But having access to the Emperor's Divide always means that you can shuffle Harbo back and make his life a little bit awkward on that attempt of an all-in. But I think it's more about tracking Shakal's level 6, because once that level 6 comes in, which is, well, great timing segue for me, I guess, right now, it does inherently mean that that combination just has so much extra damage that Errol, if he gets clipped by it, just the Moonfall and into the immediate last breath, you normally don't really get to walk out of it alive.
It's a good magic trick, you know? You just disappear.
I think Velocity took the cannon, as in like the support item when he gave Errol the range creep.
Oh, he killed the range creep with the Q as well, and he only had 1 stack on the.
And it prioritized the.
Oh, why does it do that? It shouldn't prioritize that.
I don't know. That's really.
That is BS. But we are about to hit that 8-minute mark, Jamada. You know what that means? Hell this up, baby. And I'm seeing a lot of priority here with both supports roaming out to the mid lane. They want it.
Yeah, no, they really do. And Munster opened out onto the top side of the map, whereas Velocity did initially, but now with Errol moving back to a reset, it seems like they're just going to have to give this one up. But having got that first dragon, maybe not going to feel too bad about it. We have the gold up on our screen, so I might as well talk about it very briefly. Julbu, as expected, with those 2 kills, is up a couple of hundred of gold. But Shakal is making up for it a little bit in the CS department, up a couple of camps in his own right. But across the board, kind of about as you'd expect things when you kind of take a look at the CS numbers. So nothing too out of the ordinary just as of yet. But I'm definitely very surprised that Harbo continues to grow a CS lead. Maybe just speaks to his ability to pilot this matchup, and maybe Errol just hasn't been able to find the punishable windows in some of those trades, which you so often can.
That is the Herald, by the way. It did end up getting taken. Julbu caught in a 1v3 here at the pillar very early, and he doesn't even hit the red. The combo is there. You can flash and do everything you want, but against the last breath Moonfall combo, nothing you can do. Harpo gets the kill.
Yeah, really awkward invade, because I don't think he had priority anywhere. This isn't even...
Nope.
That was just a bit of a head scratcher. Maybe, I think the thought process is more about thinking for cross maps, right? You just lost the Herald, you want to go to the bottom side jungle, pick up some camps, at least make Munster pay for it somehow, but just caught out. Shakal walks directly through mid lane, and Fastleg off the back of the reset from doing the Herald checks the red buff to see and gain information and just finds him on it. And Shakal, even worse, doesn't get the red buff. Like, as in, I don't think he even got the takedown. It's on Harbo.
Yeah, it's on Harbo, yeah. So he didn't actually get the red. I mean, that's a silver lining at the very least from Yulbo, right? He got the gold from killing the red. He might have given it over, but he got some gold in the end. I thought he lost the red and then also died, which would mean he gained nothing. Yes, he gained 2 ultimates that are coming back up pretty soon already, and he used his own flash. So what is the real play from Yulbo now? Because obviously you talked about Trundle wanting to stat check, but you've now lost your flash, lost your ultimate. What is his plan now for the next, like, what, 5 minutes?
So I think you still have a fair amount of priority from the bottom side matchup that you have. So looking to pick up a second dragon wouldn't be a terrible idea to, at the very least, not only just deny it away from Munster, but put yourself in a position where if you do find some lead somewhere, all of a sudden, if by third dragon you're strong enough to team fight and you win that, then of course you're on track for a 4-dragon soul. So I'm still expecting Rate to try and play towards that bottom side dragon. And it seems like by Jorbu's pathing at the moment, if he goes down to Wolves, they're probably playing for Dragon. If he goes up to Krugs, then I expect Carl to TP to back towards the top side, then they look for a top side gank. And it seems like it will be the latter of the two, as Munster will probably look to pick up this Dragon. And with Jorbu on the top side, I don't expect it to be contested too heavily, just because it'll take too long for him to get down there. We'll see though.
Skewer got the recall off, and that means the top line game, not really anything possible happening there. So Yulbo is on the top side. Erol, Emperor's Divide back under with Harbo in the turret, but the combo comes through. Erol forced to flash away the bandage shots, barely misses, and Erol able to survive in the end, but a couple ultimates used and forced to flash himself.
Yeah, if Shkar was there just a couple fractions of a second sooner, that would have definitely been a dead arrow. I think the burst damage would have been more than enough just from a Q dash, and I think actually if you pan up, that's a cannon barrage that just got used to interrupt Terrell's teleport as well.
This Drake could be contested. Yes, you don't have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, you don't have the Emperor's Divide, but you have some tools still, and they don't have the Moonfall into Last Breath combo. So Shakale at the moment just getting run down by Hoyce, who gets some good damage in, and Yulbo will start up the Drake. Let's see if Shakal will go for the steal. Will they contest? The mid lane priority is on the side of Munster Rugby Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, whilst the priority is there, I think it's just a misstep from Munster, all in all. They wanted to play for the mid lane Herald, I imagine. Obviously, Harbo getting shoved underneath the tower was a little bit of a, unfortunate circumstance, but he was always going to be fine. He would have made it out there, and I think Fastleg just panicked and kind of forced the hand of Munster towards the mid lane, using too many resources, and Rate are just able to very comfortably respond. And with the cannon barrage being down, just seems like there was really not too much Munster could do, having expended so much. And now in the mid lane, move full, last breath, Errol, no flash this time.
No flash, no Emperor's Divide, so nothing really he could do. There's not a shuffle you can do out there because they will simply block the E, so not much he could do in the end. It was a clean, nice combo flash from Shakale. You talked about it in the draft, right? As soon as you log in the Diana, you kind of want to get the Yasuo just because you can do that. It was simple, it was clean, and it was beautiful. As Hoyce now gets dive, forced to flash away. The flash in from Velocity as he tries to save his AD carry, but the exhaust simply gets cleansed. Ruvelius pulls his support back, and they just get out cleanly.
Yeah, really clean execution on the way out of that dive. I thought for a second that Fastleg was actually going to get turned around on, but had the stopwatch in the inventory, burns it, keeps himself alive, and the Callisto Helmet comes through as Revelius just runs down Hoyce. Definitely pretty strong attempt at surviving that dive from Hoyce and Velocity, but it was just too well executed from Munster.
I'm very impressed by that. It was a very clean 2v2 dive, and while Fastleg was somewhat close to going down, the Fate's call was perfectly timed. It was just a nice dive, and, tries they might rate wasn't able to outplay it because it was executed so well. But if we are to talk things for Raid that are going well, because they are behind at the moment, yes, they got some good kills early, but they haven't been able to get anything after that other than the 2 Drakes. So that's kind of the silver lining, right? You might be a couple thousand gold behind, but in 3 minutes, you could be on soul point and get a very early Cloud Soul in the end.
Yeah, and I think Munster are going to be feeling pretty good about the fact there's a Cloud, because I feel like I always say this when a Cloud Dragon's on the table, like, it's just not an Inferno or a Hex Dragon, right? And that's always the scary thing. Jorbu is on the wrong side of the map, but I don't think he's going to get punished for it. Should you be able to walk out. And Munster can, honestly, kind of just sit here very comfortably. Now, Velocity could be in trouble, but pop the armor, so he's cool.
Unbreakable will. Pella came there as well to dissuade any further engage. In the end, though, Hoyce left alone in the bot side map. Yulbro is in the mid lane. Hoist, though, has to be careful as Shakel moves around. Tries to get that Grump. Hasn't been spotted. They don't know that he's there. They will see the Grump being taken. They'll know that something is up in that area at the least.
Yeah. But will they stick around is the big question on both sides. Because Munster are poising still for a dive. And
yeah, they want this dive. I think that is pretty clear. There is no unbreakable will, and there is no aftershock. So Velocity could actually get bursted here, and he will with the moonfall. Good flash away, and good stun onto Rebellious as they want to turn onto him, but he doesn't get the turn shot in, and clean re-engage from Fastlick. 2 kills again on the dive for Munster Rugby Gaming.
It's just another clean dive from Munster on the bottom side of the map. Now, if you take a look towards the mid lane, at the very least, Errol is able to try and trade some of that tower HP, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just not really too much. Harbour is going to return back to the mid lane. That tower is still going to be standing. In fact, it's actually Munster have more chip damage towards the mid lane from the Herald usage earlier on than Rate has in the mid side of the map. And on the top side, Skewer able to get a couple of assists through means of the cannon barrage. Really good stuff again from Munster on this bottom side tower dive, and the gold lead continues to grow for them. 4,000 with no threat of, you know, a combat, like a real strong combat Dragon Soul. They probably don't even necessarily care about giving up the third one. They'll look to take it just to not give over the stats, if anything.
Yeah, and the thing that I find very interesting here is I've casted a couple of Dianas recently in the jungle, and the Diana build has somewhat shifted for some junglers towards a more tanky Sunfire Aegis build, but Shaket 2-0-2, and now actually, as soon as I mentioned it, starting to go towards that Sunfire Aegis, but has built some damage with the Nash's Tooth, so that Moonfall combo will be dealing a lot with the Last Breath, as it is not just a full tank Diana.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting take. We've seen a lot of it with, you know, these items that have very strong spikes. As you can see, actually, Harbour's doing the same thing. It's something that we saw, I believe it was Chovy with Yone. It's a player, it's a mid laner in the LCK at the very least that was doing this build with Blade the Rune King on Yasuo or Yone. I'm pretty sure it was Yone, and they would also go Sunfire. And you've also seen this build for quite a lengthy amount of time on Irelia as well, where you get Blade for the 1 iron power spike. It gives you a lot of sticking power, which you wouldn't really have otherwise. And then you also get the Sunfire for the tanky stats. And Blade's base damage kind of just gets you through in terms of what you can put out. And of course, the Sunfire keeps you alive and helps you get a whole bunch of additional damage out with the rising AoE that it does kind of help you do with the Emulate. But talking more about the game itself now, as Curl gets jumped on fast like though. Just kind of feeling himself. Munster, they do pick up the second dragon. Rate, however, do trade it for a topside tower. And I feel like Rate, honestly, given the state of the game, probably preferred this, because getting a little bit more extra gold into Errol's pocket, who's been performing so well on this Azir, means that he's going to get to those iron spikes a little bit sooner, and maybe Errol will have something to play on in the next couple of minutes. Curl, though, going in. Yeah,
just fancies the 1v2. He does have backup coming in from Velocity, and he does a lot of damage, Curl, even with this tanky build, forcing the Fate called out in a complete 1v2.
Yeah, really surprised. I mean, Swain bases are still kind of high. Excuse my door, I guess. Are very high. As Velocity gets jumped on, Unbreakable Will.
And a very good slow actually from the Glacial Augment allows him to just walk out, but now Curl, no Demonic Embrace, nowhere to really do anything this time around. You cannot ascend into your demon form, as the Rend will surely pick it up as Ruvelius gets the kill. Now the Yulbo comes in for the re-engage. Harpo could get CC'd up here. The Cannon Barrage comes through. The Moonfall is not available, used before on Velocity, so they pick up Harpo for free. The arrow connects, but the Ignite, as you say, still pick up Velocity. Shakel, slowed and forced to flash away. He will get out. A 1-for-2 in favor of Munster Rugby Gaming, unless Yulbo has something to say about a pillar. Should be available. Good flash from Fast Leg, then Shakel, tanky enough to walk out. So it is, in the end, a 2-for-1 in Skewer. He gets a lot of gold in the top lane.
Yeah, I think he takes this tower with Trial by Fire procs as well. So it's going to be 600 gold he picks up, but right on the opposite side, will at the very least pick up that tier 1 rather on the bottom side. And the gold goes into Errol's pocket yet again. So the Azir not doing too bad for himself, but when you look over at the wallets of the enemy team, Munster are starting to kind of get to a point where they are going to very soon start to be, you know, an item up on their counterparts. You can kind of just see across the board, it's sort of sitting at around give or take 1,000 everywhere, 500 in some cases. 1,500 from the bottom side and the top sides of the map. So, great. I'm gonna have to find some injection of gold somewhere soon because Munster otherwise are gonna just start to kind of stat check them with their wallets.
And there was something I wanted to bring up, but I wasn't really able to with all the fighting going on towards the bot lane. But after Raid got the top side turret, I realized that Yulbu also still had a Herald that he had taken. But with that Herald, he hasn't really been able to get much. It looks like they might have gotten the bot lane turret afterwards in the play before. And that's a bit of gold, but it wasn't really, you know, the big explosive Herald we sometimes see where you manage to get maybe 2 turrets with it and really get yourself back into the game in terms of gold. Because I think you're highlighting a completely correct point that, yes, this is a 6k gold lead, and it will start to feel like that soon in these team fights when you just get stat checked with a fat wallet.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I really am very impressed with is how much damage and tankiness Curl is bringing with this Frozen Heart build. Skewer's just going to very slowly get run down. But I don't think there's anything left in the tank. And I will give Curl credit for winning barrel war attacks with Swain War. But anyway, back towards the top side of the map. Skirmish going.
Ooh. Yeah, no ultimate forced to flash away. There is still an Emperor's Divide if they want to go for the Shurima Shuffle. As they do get some damage into Revilia's Velocity though, taking quite low as well. Does still have the Unbreakable, but flashes away to safety. Re-engage here from Shakir as the Cannon Barrage yet again comes down, and Velocity will die to another burn. No, actually he won't. Able to get out for now. Yulbo down to about 300, 400 HP. Good stun in an Erol. I don't know how the banish has hit, but it certainly did. Revilius tries to go forward as Erol also survives on little to no HP. Curl, though, surely will go down with the Ren. Shakel wants to kill an Erol. Will he be able to flash away? The Q doesn't connect. Good juke the level up as well to ensure his survival, as Revilius can't get the kill either way. 1 kill goes over to the side of Munster Rugby Gaming.
Oh, dude, Gangplank as well on the opposite side. Has just kind of been split pushing up a storm as Munster also winning that skirmish in the extended trade, and now they're starting out the Baron. Now, the problem is that teleport came on top of a control ward, so Ray all know this is going on. But the problem for Ray is that's a really fast Baron, and unfortunately they're just not even going to be able to respond. Like, that's just gone. Yeah. And that's just kind of the power of, you know, 2 IM Callista, 20-minute Baron, Blade Luring King on that Yasuo. Also, Gangplank. One thing. Oh, you know, funnily enough, I was on cast on Tuesday with Archer, and I didn't quite get to explain because it's something that ended up actually being pretty important. The Gangplank tech, when you're doing neutral objectives, like more specifically Baron and Elder, if you have to burn it, just resetting Trial by Fire with the powder kegs, it really makes you burn through that Baron a lot faster than you would maybe anticipate, especially with some of the newer builds where you have so much additional AD. It does make Trial by Fire kind of do like 500, 600 damage per proc. And you can re-proc that 6 times or so on a Baron.
That's a lot of damage on a Baron.
Yeah, like you end up doing over 2,000 true damage to Baron every single takedown. And it's something you can proc super quick, and that just small interaction saw Skewer using that help them burst down that Baron so fast. And now they have that buff, and they're looking to try and siege towards the rest of the map. As they did pick up another Cloud Dragon, which is going to put them on Soul Point, but they're almost 10,000 gold down, and I'm not sure whether or not Munster will give them another opportunity to pick up that dragon.
I mean, Silver Lining was also an objective bounty, so they got 500 gold back. I mean, it is something, but in the grand scheme of a 10k gold lead, it is not really enough to bring the game back to an even state. And I think a lot of that, as you mentioned, can be contributed to Skewer helping out in the team fights with only his Cannon Barrage, and then just getting so many turrets across the map. We see it again, he doesn't care about Curl. Curl doesn't do enough damage for him to care, as he will be getting this turret instead. And now, Chicane goes for it, might even look for the kill as well. Curl does slow him up as he runs away, will get pulled back again with the Never Move. A bit of damage from Curl, but it isn't the biggest, but it's enough to get him low. The arrow connects. They do get another Never Move, but still the damage isn't there. Fast legs look for the fire, and he gets 4 with the ultimate. Gets thrown back into the front line, almost down, but no one has fallen yet. Hoist is full HP. They get the knockup onto Revilius, but there, Moonfall and the last breath on Hoist and Erole, and he has to try and carry it with 200 HP, and Erole can simply not. Yes, Curl is still alive, but Harbo gets the double kill. 4-man of Munster Rugby Gaming still alive, and they're charging towards the base.
They are, but I mean, they still have to deal with this big bird man who has managed to hold on to ultimate for what feels like almost 30 seconds. Is finally going to drop off. But Munster, it looked pretty scary for a second there because they weren't able to pull the trigger for so long with Shkal and Harbo. But eventually Shkal, I think, flashed forward and just dashed. Didn't even chuck out the Q, just tried to find those key targets in Errol and Hoyes. Eventually did, and Harbo able to clean up house onto those 2 carries. Great, though, I think you can kind of, in a very strange way, despite losing 3 members, call this a bit of a win because you don't actually lose your base to a Baron buff when you're almost 10,000 gold down. Okay, that's success, if you ask me.
Let's keep an eye on Chikalandas. Very good engagement fast leg, but it feels to me like Raid actually have a chance of winning this when they go on Rebellious here, and they're all diving towards him, but look at Shkale. He finds both the carries, and Hoyes instantly gets deleted. Errol gets taken down to what, 100, 200 HP and goes golden. That there was the deciding moment of the fight. Have they managed to get onto Rebellious? Have they managed to take him down? And there wasn't a re-engage in, but who we thought was unkillable just gets soloed.
Yeah, that's the problem when you don't have your R-button with this Rylai's build. You can definitely be auto-attacked down by a Gangplank who has a Lord Dominic's Regard now, so far in. And I think we're just going to get a look at how it actually happened.
Oh yeah, he's low on mana.
Okay, I mean, he was half HP. Yeah,
low on mana. I think he might have just been overstayed a bit.
Like, yeah, just overreached for a wave. Maybe it was close to an Ion. Definitely not something you see super frequently, even in Division 2, like a pick like that. But does end up falling, and now Munster just going to use this temporary numbers advantage to try and siege up in this tier 2 mid lane, but won't find the tower just yet. Are still looking so strong, 10,000 gold ahead. Rate. They're going to have to lead on Swain.
We saw something in the last fight, and that was Shkale being able to find a good engage and dealing a lot of damage in unison with Harbo on the main carries. Do you see what Shkale is about to finish in his build?
Oh,
that's a Revenant.
Death Cap. Yeah.
That is the damage just, taken off the charts, if you could put it like that. He won't have it for this Drake fight, which could be the soul, I should probably say, from Raid, if they manage to get out of their base, get out of their T2s, and, make it down into the river. Do you think they should go for it, or do they just want to give it up?
I think Raid should just give it up. Like, Munster, I mean, we're actually... I'm in a weird sense of mind to say that Munster should just let this dragon stay on the map. And if Rate pick it up, then you just spawn Elder in sooner, and you should, if
the Elder win the game.
For whatever reason you can't close out the game before that Elder spawns in, you should just win the game. But also, I've seen so many Elder flips in Summer alone that just ruin game lead.
Are risky in Div 2. Very risky in Div 2.
I think the safer option is just to keep Elder off the map. Like, I remember having this discussion a lot, especially when, Cloud was super weak. Like, it's, in my opinion, technically stronger than it was before Season 12, but still, it just doesn't quite stand up to the other dragons. I think they need to buff it in a meaningful way that kind of makes it, like, objectively good regardless, because I think the big problem with it is it's only situationally good, and you can't really say that about the other dragons. Like, they all objectively give you pretty good benefits.
Yeah, it's always nice to be tanky. It's always nice to deal more damage. It's always nice to slow every now and then with your spells from the Hextech Drake, right? It's always this is always nice, and then the ultimate movement speed things is sometimes just completely useless.
Yeah, like, it's just kind of subjectively good, right? Like, it just entirely depends on your champion. Like, are you playing, I don't know, Olaf or Rakan? Great, Cloud Soul's amazing, but what if you're playing, like, Jhin? I guess... Jhin might be a bad copium for Kassadin, but like if you're playing Jhin, I guess technically you get extra AD because
that's actually true. Movement speed conversion.
But like champions that are a little more static, like a Mumu for example. Like what does a Mumu need? Cloud Soul movement speed.
Yeah, he's already done all he needs enough to do in a fight when he has altered with the Curse of the Sad Mummy. But to bring it a bit more back into the game, Jamada, I want to kind of talk scaling here, right? Because I am looking at a very strong 4-item level 17 GP, but I'm also looking at a raid roster in terms of, getting close to those third items. Do you think that will be enough? Or, as we now also see the Revenant's Death Cap we mentioned before coming in Shkale, do you think it's a very hard point for them to come back?
I think Raid would really need a massive combo. And I think they really could rely on Errol to find some kind of massive shuffle, perhaps. But I think the problem is, if he ever goes for something like that, he just gets one shot. So even through the Zhonya's, actually, which he's gone second in favor of picking up a little more damage, he has just finished up his Void Staff. So he is going to get through what is a very tanky lineup because of the builds of Munster. But it's just a really tough position for Rate to be in. Like, I think they have to steal Baron, but then not only steal Baron, like hold out until Elder. It's just such a tough.
They have vision on it.
Yeah.
That is actually a good thing. Oh, wait, they don't. It was just baiting me. 3k, he's in the pit, though. Can he get it? No, no, he cannot. He just got absolutely destroyed. And that is the Baron, though. They do get one back on fast pick. And Curl, yeah, as you say, in the middle of 4, Harpo forced to go golden. Revilius, though, causing havoc on the backline. Erol now in the pit as well, as Skewer is the main priority. Revilius forced to flash away. And yeah, I think you're right. Raid are winning the fight. Curl, simply unkillable. Danish 1v1 champion, but he can team fight as well as Shakan falls and only one Baron remains on Munster Rugby Gaming.
Is huge for Rate. They pick off 4 Barons. Revelius is in the mid lane trying to shove in this wave. He's getting teleported on. He's dead.
He's dead, yeah, he is dead, right? He kites around on Curl. The Sand Soldiers come through, and as Curl goes golden, no Barons alive.
All right, I mean, a lot of gold just went over to Rate, and whilst typically at this point in the game, you start to say, gold lead's going to start to matter less and less. The fact that they just picked up all these kills and, the gold lead is still 10k, you think, well, I guess they're like still in the bin. But you have to look at where that gold just went. We'll talk about it after this replay, though, because Rate, they go for 50-50. You cannot blame them. Jorbu gets in the pit because he sees Shakal outside of the pit, but as soon as that happens, he just dashes back in, gets bursted down, and the Baron goes the way of Munster. However, look at Curl, because that route over the wall ensures that once he gets into the middle of everybody with that Demonic Ascension, he is just pumping out damage. And Errol over the wall of the soldiers is able to also help mince through those health bars. And no one can kill this Swain when he's in ultimate form. He's too tanky. He's just sustaining up too much. Yes, Shakal picks up velocity, but it's a consolation prize in comparison to what just got lost. And then Aurelius in the extended, in all fairness, credit for trying, but was almost always going to go down here. And 1,000 gold, by the way, ends up going into Errol's back pocket.
I mean, that's an expensive way to push up from the side of Munster Rugby Gaming. But another thing I think is important to highlight there is when you mentioned Yulbo flashing into the pit, what does Munster Rugby Gaming do? They instantly burst him. But what do they use to burst him? They use the Moonfall last breath combo. Yeah. Exactly. So all of a sudden, Erol over the wall feels so much more safer and allowed to dish out the damage. And wow, that is a straight death cap from the side of Erol.
Wow, like that is an absurd amount of gold that he just got then, because he reset to buy his Void Staff before that Baron fight. So that's a lot of stats.
And that's a Yulbo. Yeah, I mean, you can go golden, but you're just gonna stand there and then just die afterwards. So it doesn't change much, as yet another soul would be spawning in 10 seconds, but now without a jungler, what can you really do? And I can tell you, Erol can do so much damage. Skewer taken down to 20%.
Yeah, and I will say, whilst I don't normally pick on builds too much, I actually don't like the fact that Curl is going to go towards the mandate here. I really feel like you want Leandri's just for the sake of
the burn.
A lot more damage.
Oh, it is 12.12b though, so the burn doesn't apply twice with Erol. That is only in 12.13.
I guess, but I don't know. I feel like my problem is then they're not always hitting the same targets at the same time. Yeah, and Curl has been such a big.
Yeah, so Curl is guaranteed to hit everyone, right? While Erol might be 1 to 2 target oriented.
Yeah.
So it's not a. Yeah, so it would just be, you think there is still value in it because they are not going to be hitting 5-man both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I just feel like you also have to remember there's 2 parts to the Andre's passive damage that gets done. So it would still amp his damage more than buying a mandate. But at the same time, I do understand, he's in the middle of everybody. Proccing that mandate is still going to feel pretty good for everybody involved. And he also gets the movement speed, which is going to help him stay even stickier to the targets. So it's pros and cons. But I personally just feel like the Andre's just give you a bit more damage. You already have the sticking power, in my mind.
I mean, that's pretty factual, I would say, in terms of more damage. It gives more AP, right? It's an AP item compared to a supportive item, which gives you a bit of AP, but it's more utility for your team, right?
Yeah. I will say, though, the most important part is that he's able to buy it now, which is the crucial thing. Obviously, Mandate is significantly cheaper than a Leandri's, so having that power spike in the immediate, imagine you're sat on components, you lose a team fight, and then the game just ends, right? You have the Mandate, you at least know you have that additional power spike on top, instead of just still building towards components if the game were to end in the next couple of minutes. So, kind of get it. not going to derail the cast anymore. What I have point.
Look,
Jamana. Something that poked my brain. Yes.
We have 34 minutes in. This game, in terms of the goalie, if you just look at the goalie, this game should have been over 10 minutes ago, right? But it is not. And that's because Raid have somehow been able to win these team fights. I would like if you could just, we're getting into those very, very late game team fights, highlight what is the most important things to look at from each team.
All right, so I think the very obvious thing from Munster is simply the last breath and the moonfall, right? That combination is so potent. If they're able to find it onto Hoys and Ero, you expect that they'll win the team fight because the follow-up should just be there. Also keep your eye on Fastleg because he's had quite a few very, very strong Amumu ultimates. Just on occasion, it feels like they haven't been followed up on. And on the opposite side, 4-8, I think just keep your eyes on the solo laners. Curl, Errol as well, of course. Late game is it, and this Swain has just been a constant menace. And the reason why we're still in this game right now, to be honest with you guys. Said it, Fastleg.
Finds Poise, and that's the combo. Moonfall, last breath, 2-man. Down from the side of Raid as Velocity somehow makes it out alive, and Harpo now has to go away, turned around in an instant from Raid as they pick up 2. They might be looking for more. Revelius does good damage, but not good enough. Triple for Erol as they find the fight.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just what is it effectively? It's a 4v4. Cannon Barrage comes down from Skewer, but Curl was also just not there, and there's a tower dive, an overextension underneath the Sun Disc, and Raid, they're just going to be able to turn this into Baron off the back of that. Just no contest. There's nothing really that Munster can do about it. Skewer can try and play Nuisance, but once his teleport comes in, oh my god, I expect it should be fine.
Watch out for the barrels. Erol could be deleted, but as soon as they get onto Skewer, they will delete him. He only manages to get Velocity. And Shakale now has to do something. He does good damage onto Curl, but as you say, he's probably just dead. He finds the Moonfall, but golden goes Curl, and Shakale will only buy a couple seconds as Erol takes him down with the help of Curl.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely admire the attempt from Shakale, but it's just not really enough. Now Raid sit with 4 out of 5 members having the Baron. It's just the support who doesn't have it, which at that point, supports, man, who cares? But Raid, with that many Baron buffs on so many of the damage dealers, that's the important part. It means that they can actually look towards this dragon, contest it. Soul, I don't think that Soul is going to be incremental to who wins this game, per se. But you always want to have, any advantage that you can find yourself with. So picking up this dragon is definitely going to feel good. I think when you look towards the death timers, maybe Shakale's being 20 seconds away, it could just be late enough that Raid should have a big enough advantage in numbers around this objective, as we're going to get a pause very late on in the game.
Pause. It should be now, right? We're 37 minutes in. It's about a big Drake fight. Of course, it's going to have to be a pause. But for me, right, what I find so interesting here, Jamada, is the fact that the goal is still in a big lead for Munster Rugby Gaming. And yes, obviously, the later we go into the game, the less the gold matters. But in this team fight, everyone on Raid are not full build. Toys only have 3 items. Erol wasn't even full build either. But yet, they still managed to win the fight somehow. Erol, the late game is just too strong.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was just to do with the fact that if you saw at the start of that replay who was actually focusing Errol, the answer was nobody. He was just straight up mincing them with those Sand Soldiers as they were diving forward onto Hoys, and the rest of those targets who got hit by the Mumu engage just wasn't quite as strong perhaps as they were hoping for. Maybe expecting to get through those targets faster and then retreat or either go for a further dive. It's hard to really call. But that overextension and over-aggression cost them the Baron. It's probably going to cost them this Cloud Dragon, which, Cloud Soul, we've had enough discussions about it this game already. I think it's going to be more about whether or not the game ends before, either other mega objective respawns. Otherwise, we're looking towards Elder, we're looking towards Baron.
Yeah, it feels very much like if both teams decide to commit for this Drake and one team gets an ace, that's going to be more important than who gets the soul. The soul doesn't really matter. It's more so either one team gets the soul here and nothing really happens, or they both come in and say, we really want the soul, and then the team who wins the fight will really be able, to have 30 seconds on the map. And at this point of the game, 30 seconds on the map is time enough to end.
Yeah, no, absolutely is. As long as you've got a minion wave, you can just, like you say, you can just end the game. It's all around these megas. That's all I can really say. I feel like we're just going to have to track the key targets that we've been tracking already. Solo laners from Raid, mid-jungle from Munster, Mumu engages as well, of course, from Fastleg have been pretty consistently good. and whether or not those connect onto the members they have to on the opposite ends, right?
Mm.
Taking down the AD carry, taking down Errol for Munster. Also,
It's-
if they can even deal with Carl on the front line is also the next big question now for some of these team fights.
Yeah, and I think, as we saw in the last side, right, they can take down Hoys. If they get only Hoys and they use, the Moonfall combo, the Last Breath, the Curse of the Sad Mummy, that's fine because then Irolle still has enough damage. Not sure if it's only Hoys left that they do have enough. Maybe with Curl, he's able to do something, but look at the damage they'll deal to him. He is not a tank, but he is able to survive for now as the Fate Call is used. And look who goes straight onto the Drake. It is Munster Rugby Gaming who sneak it away, back out, and don't lose anything else.
All right, so still a minute left on the Baron for Rate. They do lose this soul as Munster sneak that one away, and they're not going to be able to siege up in the mid lane. There's too much wave clear. Oh my god!
Oh my god. Skewer got the damage, but not able to get anyone really, as he ends up having to flash away to safety himself. Yulbo does have the flash, gets slowed up by the Q, able to run away with the W. As Shakael goes back into the jungle, will simply just take those camps away as he is still needing one more item.
Yeah, still working towards that final item. Curious to know what that will be. But man, Skewer, if he crits on those barrels, 1.2k onto Hoys there. That's why I was kind of worried, because I wasn't actually quite aware of where the rest of the Munster were and whether or not they could capitalize on that, because a crit barrel like that on top of a cannon barrage, if anything else connects, that's just death. Like, there is nothing you can really do about that. And imagine if Harbo and Chakao find a combo and then a barrel finds its way on top of that, and it's a crit barrel. That is...
Then no one will survive. Like, not even
no one survives. Yeah. Not even Carl can survive through much burst damage, I don't think. Only if he has his ultimate, really, can he even probably stay alive long enough to press Zonias. Maybe buy some time, but Baron's worn off. Still sieging in the mid lane. They really want this tower. It's quite low, and they should just about get it. But I think we're just waiting for another 3 minutes until the Baron spawns up, because there's enough wave clear on either side that if either team actually takes control of some of these waves and looks to siege up on these tier 3s, they're just going to wave clear it out.
Pressure on for both teams. We highlighted it earlier. Big win for Munster Rugby Gaming to ensure that they stay out of that relegation race and keep themselves in the way more fun race, the playoff race. Ray Gaming want to bounce back from a 2-game loss streak and ensure that they stay at the top of the table battle, battling for that top 2 places. And now look for Shakael. Can they burst him before he gets the turnaround? Harbo and Aegon, though, are safe at the moment, and that's what's most important for the side of Ray. Shakael, though, looking for it, has the flash, but can he find it? It's all we are looking for. Harbo deleted, and that's one part of the combo. A big barrel chain, but it is not big enough. That's the Moonfall on to 3. Aegon alive as he dashes away, but he has to turn this. He has to find them, but he falls to Revelius as only Velocity remains. Shakael, Skewer, and Fast like alive, and they will leave Velocity to be because they have 40 seconds to look for the game.
They've got 40 seconds and a minion wave, and that's the important thing. Harbo, despite diving quite far deep and actually just having no backup and dying through a GA, is still able to provide enough time because Rate, they're kind of focused and not really burning down anybody else. And eventually it's Fastlegged with a massive Curse of the Sad Mummy. That gets followed up beautifully by a Moonfall. I think this is it. There's still enough death times left. Velocity is the only one available to try and clear this out, and he just doesn't really have damage all the way through. He's going to kill Fastleg.
Yeah, but look at Shakael's damage in the turret. 9 seconds, 5 seconds. I think this is it. Shakael, Skewer, both low. It took 40 minutes. It wasn't clean, but it's enough to get the win for Munster Rugby Gaming.
Woo! Munster break what was a pretty lengthy loss streak. 5-6 games or so against Rate, who now on their own right are actually building a bit of a loss streak for themselves. Third loss on the trot, unfortunately, for them. But what an amazingly fun game that was to watch from a neutral perspective. Rate, it just felt like, from the get-go, were on the back foot. There was a lot of proactivity coming out from this Munster lineup with that Yasuo Diana combo, with Fastleg. Yes, being over-aggressive quite a few times, but the fact that he was able to find so many, multi-man ultimates, which then set up for the rest of the combinations to follow through, just kind of meant that team fights were always perilous to really have to navigate through for Rate. And unfortunately, we never got to see a big enough pop-off from the Azir or from the Ashe to really get things going. Curl as well, you have to give credit for buying so much time and so much space in many of these team fights. But again, even if he was buying all of that space and bringing fights, back to sort of parry, unfortunately, the damage wasn't always, enough from everybody else to get them across the finish line to pick up some of these neutral objectives and maybe look towards the base in the very end.
And what have we learned in the end? Well, a Yasuo Diana combo is good, but a Moonfall can sometimes also be enough. And with that, I think we'll throw it into a break before we come back with the winner and losers interview with Munster Rugby Gaming coming up first, of course.